It's time to talk about JoJo! Part 4 of Diamond is Unbreakable. Woo! Intro start. Hey, what's up, guys? So today we're going to talk about JoJo Part 4 and kind of just my thoughts and opinions and feelings on it. You might even call this a geek out session. Unfortunately, this will also involve my current... I wouldn't say it's not really spoilers because I'm not really going to talk about too much spoiler stuff. It's more so I'm going to just kind of discuss how I've been spoiled in some way, shape, or form. So first things first. The reason that prompted this video is that I have been watching Part 4, I've been enjoying Part 4, and it was recently confirmed that Part 4 was going to be 39 episodes, which is weird for a lot of people, because a lot of people are like, wait a minute, Part 4 is longer than Part 3, and Part 3 was like 48 episodes, I think. So it was about a good 10 episodes longer than Part 3. So why is Part 4 the longer in terms of manga, the shorter in terms of anime adaptations? Well, I went ahead and did the math and looked up some stuff, and I come to find out that most series usually adapt about 2 chapters per volume, correct? I mean, 2 chapters per episode. That's usually for a Shonen Jump series. Naruto, One Piece, Bleach. Well, Bleach could blow through episodes because of how fast-paced Bleach is. But the majority, the standard amount of chapters they would usually adapt was somewhere between 1 and 2. Or in One Piece's case, half a chapter in 2, because, you know, we can't do full episodes anymore. But if you were to ask the question, well, how many chapters is JoJo Part 4 being adapted from in each episode? The average amount is about 5. I think there are some chapters that do about 6 chapters, and there are some episodes that do about 6 chapters, and some episodes that do like 4 chapters. The point is, about 5 episodes is average, and if you do 5 times 39, it's like 190 something. So they actually have room to kind of like stretch out shit. So 39 episodes, although it doesn't seem like it's enough, is enough. People also got to remember, because Part 4, just based off how it's been so far, it's pretty slice of life-ish, that it doesn't take as long to adapt a slice of life type chapter, let alone like in action scenes. It's the same thing. Like you can do a fight in literally like an episode, versus in the manga where it takes like 6 chapters or some shit, which I heard Part 4 is notorious for having a lot of, and it's still using the stand concept. It's just using it in probably in slight variations and in different ways. The one thing I kind of like about this part so far is the fact that it's low key. It's not like this fucking saving the world type shit, which is what Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3 were, where it just turned into a fucking, we gotta save the world from Dio and his crazy ass, or the Pillar Man in Part 2, because the world's gonna get fucked up if we let them wander around too long. And granted, it's kind of like that in Part 4, and I guess I should go ahead and talk about it. So, I haven't really done a review, I probably will do a review eventually on Part 3 and Part 1 and Part 2. But Part 3 specifically, to me, as of right now, between doing the parts I finished between Parts 1 through 3, is probably the worst overall. Because Part 3 suffers from not really an interesting storyline. I mean, it's pretty straightforward, and like most of the episodes are just one-off fights. Like, this is like the most traditional shonen part, like JoJo seems to get, where it's just like fight after fight after fight after fight, and nothing's really fucking, and all you're really seeing is a new stand user. He's introduced, or she's introduced. Rarely is she, though. Stand user's introduced, punks whichever character who's going to be the focus in the fight of the week, and if it's only one episode, they beat him at the end of the damn episode, and we move on. Or if it's a Part 2, you get to like a major cliffhanger, and then the second episode, they beat the shit out of him, and then the game continues forward. There's not too much about Part 3's episodes, and I wouldn't even say there's really any character development. The only character I would argue gets any development in Part 3 is fucking Polnareff. And unfortunately, Polnareff's development comes at a cost. I'm not going to say what the cost is for those who haven't seen Part 3, but it comes at a cost. The short answer, nothing else is fucking interesting. Polnareff is not a character I inherently cared about to begin with, considering he's one of those villains turned friend, which really isn't a spoiler because it happens way early in the goddamn series. He's just a character I didn't give a fuck about. So, like, if you're not a fan of Polnareff, then, like, Part 3 really has no value in you unless you're a person who just really likes fights. Like, to me, none of the characters of Part 3 except for, like, Joseph and Polnareff are, like, actual characters. The rest of them are just kind of there. It sucks. It's like, especially when you realize that Kakyoin and fucking Jose and Jotaro are fucking kids. They're like teenagers in this part. They don't fucking feel like it at all. It almost makes me wonder, how the fuck are you and Joseph related? Because you have no sense of humor. I feel like Jotaro literally exists just to be cool. And it sucks because you see Jotaro for a while. Like, Jotaro never leaves. That's kind of the problem. But the one thing I like about Part 3 is that Part 3, for one, is focusing on other characters. And two, all the characters have been likable. Okuyasu's cool. Koichi's cool. Josuke is cool. Jotaro's been fucking fine because he actually talks and he has a personality. And he also doesn't look ripped as shit like a teenager isn't supposed to. It's ridiculous. Joseph has normal body proportions. And granted, I understand that's partially because of Rocky's style during Part 4. Part 4 was the part in which his style changed from that Fist of the North Star look to, like, more normalized but fabulous proportions. Even the new characters we've been introducing, I like the fact that we're also getting more friendly stand users. Or stand users who aren't a part of, like, the main villain cast that you hate to see. For example, Yukako. Now, granted, I understand, and this kind of gets into something else, but Yukako is not a villain. She has her fucking problems, but she's not a villain. Same thing for Tonio. Tonio's kind of weird, but he's not a fucking villain. And I like that. Introduce me to more stand users that are cool, that I don't have to fucking keep seeing. Because, like, Part 3 literally, there was, like, no ally characters. Like, whoever you were introduced in the beginning of Part 3, that's it. The rest of the fucking parts is, the rest of that part is just fight, 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 bang, fight. There was no real character development moments except for, as I said, Polnareff and Joseph. Joseph didn't even get character development. He was already a character in Part 2. They don't really do anything to change him at all. I think the best kind of character development I could argue Part 3 has is that you can tell that in the beginning, Jotaro doesn't seem to give a fuck about his grandfather. By the end, you can tell he cares. That has nothing to do with Dio whatsoever, though. But yeah, Part 4 has just been fun. Like, it's fun and it's very unpredictable, and because of its slice of life nature, you even when I'm not getting cool fight scenes, I'm getting these cool interaction moments between the main cast. Like, for example, I think during the first part of the Yukako episodes, they're sitting there trying to figure out ways to try to make Koichi less appealing, and Josuke suggests the idea is like, listen, you have to become a type of man that she has no interest in whatsoever. And Okuyasu's like, ooh, you're so smart, Josuke. And Josuke kind of does that fucking chopper shit where he's like, no. Don't praise me, you bastard. Like, and I'm just like, and that's funny. So even the beginning of the episode that came out this week, the first Red Hot Chili Pepper part episode, what's Josuke doing in the beginning of the part? Playing fucking video games. His mom's behind him like, turn off the goddamn game. You have homework to do. He's like, Mom, I can't give up now. If I give up now, that means I'm gonna grow up to be the kind of man who can't follow through on his promises. Like, it's like that kind of characterization I love, because it's not necessarily anything huge, but it's just a tiny part of understanding the characters better. It's like, okay, fine, Josuke has the thing about his hair, but that's not all that's to him. Whereas Jotaro was literally just, I'm gonna be cool, the main character. That's Jotaro's whole thing in Part 3. Josuke has video games. He's a respectful individual. We already knew from the Tonio episode that, hey, dude, he's going to his brother's, going to Okuyasu's grave with Okuyasu to pay his respects. And he likes playing fucking video games. And he's a bro to Koichi. That's the type of shit I like. You don't have to, like, it doesn't have to be this fucking, if you're gonna do, and it's still doing the same formula, it's still the fucking fighting a new character every fucking episode, but sometimes the episodes can be silly. Like the Tonio episode was a good example of an episode that's like still JoJo weird, but like wasn't fucking annoying, wasn't just a damn fight. The majority of that episode is just a lot of gags of, oh, I'm feeling great, and then whoops, some weird shit happening again. Oh, I'm feeling great. Shit weird happening. Like, I like the dynamic that Part 4 brings to the table. And I heard a lot of people are very mixed about this part because it's more slice of life versus the other parts. But it's a fucking high school setting. If you're going to use a high school character, it better have slice of life elements in it. Unlike Part 3, that fucking had two high school characters, mind you, and you couldn't fucking tell by even just looking at them. If like, I actually want to look it up how old Jotaro is in Part 3. I think he's supposed to be like 17. He better be at least 18, but I think he's supposed to be, I know he's a teenager, which he doesn't look like a fucking teenager, but whatever. I also like the fact that, from what I understand, is when Araki starts introducing more girls into the series, into prominent roles, because, oh my god, he has been on the dick for a while. Now, granted, Part 4, and a little bit of 3, in terms of like that one female Sting user that used like metal and shit, or magnetism. Part 4 introducing Yukako as like a character who is relevant, and it kind of gets into something I didn't want to talk about. For those who don't know, I got into JoJo through watching the respective animes for each part. Well, around Part 3 was the part I was probably the least interested in because, as I said, it's just a fucking fight part. And I was talking to my boys, The Rising Sun, or Margarita Z, and Uber Black Man, a.k.a. Samurai Black, and we were talking, and then we were just kind of like, dude, Part 3 is fucking boring. The Part 3 suffered, like, the only fight in Part 3 I really give a shit about watching is, like, the last few fights, like the Vanilla Ice fight and the Dio fight. Those are, like, the two ones that stick out in my head. I mean, granted, the Darby one's kind of funny in its own right, and Iggy's first fight with, what's the dude's name? Pet Shop? The Falcon? I think it's Pet Shop. Some of those are fine. But the whole thing is that that's all I give a shit about. Well, I think this was either around the time or I was about to, or I had just bought the PS3 game, JoJo All-Star Battle. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure All-Star Battle was like the first JoJo console game in a while. And it was through playing this game that I got introduced to all the main JoJos. I got introduced to Josuke for the first time. I always forget Part 5's protagonist. I think his name is like Ventuos. I never. Part 5 was like the least amount of spoilers of the spoilery shit I've dealt with. Because Part 4 spoiled me. Because playing the game spoiled me on Josuke, the main villain of Part 4, Part 5, the main villain of Part 5, and Part 6, and the main villain of Part 6. And through my fucking curiosity, out of the boredom of watching the Part 3 in the anime, I decided I'm going to go look up some stuff about Part 3, 4, 5, and 6. Well, actually, my original goal was just to look up shit later in Part 3. Unfortunately, because I saw Part 4, and Part 4 and Josuke automatically, just by design, was interesting as fuck to me. Like, I love the hairstyle, I love the way he looks. He kind of screams like the kind of JoJo I would totally click with just by looks. And Part 6 interests me because, holy shit, there's a female character. There's a female JoJo, and she's the main character of fucking JoJo of a part. I'm like, oh, goddamn, I'm super interested. So Part 4 and 6 automatically grabbed my attention. It was through my curiosity of looking through the manga. I didn't even read the whole manga. I just skimmed through certain chapters that I spoiled myself on one of the fights in Part 3. It's one of the most important fights in Part 3. Because characters, there's a death at the end of this particular fight, and it's an important death, and it's late game, so you should know what I'm referring to. Part 4, I spoiled the ending of Part 4, and I spoiled the ending of Part 6. Which, for those who've read specifically 6, you know how much of a huge deal that is to spoil the ending of Part 6. I know exactly how Part 6 ends, and it's such a huge fucking deal of how Part 6 ends. Part 4's ending, I didn't understand because I hadn't read the context of the ending. Like, when I say I saw the ending of Part 4, that doesn't mean I saw the whole final fight. I just saw, like, the last chapter of the fight, which included pretty much the ending of whoever the villain was. Part 6, I actually went and saw the whole fight, so I know exactly how Part 6 ends. The problem is I hadn't seen anything before that, so literally I only know about the beginning of Part 6 and the ending of Part 6. Part 4, it's pretty similar, except I didn't know the beginning of Part 4. So when the anime started, I already had some idea of Part 4's ending, but I didn't understand the context until we started getting into the later episodes. And I remember I was on the wiki, and I was looking at the wiki for like Koichi, and I ended up seeing something that triggered I saw something that relates to Part. For those who don't know, there's something that happens around actually within the next probably like 5 or 6 episodes. There's something that happens that is very important for the ending of Part 4. When I saw that, it put what I had already seen a few years ago into context, and I went, oh, god damn it, that's how Part 4 ends. Fuck me. Because then I got it. I was like, oh, that's the ending. And then, if you've seen people review Part 4 in terms of manga-wise, they've already made references to shit that is very fucking important. And so once I saw it, and I was like, oh, god damn it. God damn it. I now know the context of the ending of Part 4. I'm not going to spoil it for those who haven't. I will say this, it's probably the only part where I would say, at least of the first 4, that has a reaction-worthy, like, blind reaction to the very end of it. Because Part 3's wasn't shocking, Part 2's wasn't shocking to me, and Part 1's wasn't shocking considering I already knew JoJo had like 8 different parts. So I'm not insanely shocked. None of those are shocking. I actually think Part 4 is pretty fucking shocking. And actually pretty cool considering the context. Now granted, I don't know the entire that final fight for Part 4. I only know how it ends at the very end of it all. Which is, and not going to spoil it. I also know about Yukako's like return episode. Where she's like the focus of the episode. Which if you know what it is, you know how that episode also plays an important part because of its future relevance, but that's another thing. So I'm a little angry with myself that I ended up spoiling myself for part. Shut up, phone. For spoiling myself on parts for Part 4. I can't do anything about it now, unfortunately, and I'm not gonna go out of my way to be like, oh man. But I don't know how the fights go. I don't know how I don't even know who all dies in Part 4. I know there is a death. I know there is death in Part 4, but I don't know who dies in Part 4. Although I do know who doesn't die, which to me is just as much of a spoiler as anything else. But most of the plots in Part 4 I don't know. I know like the overarching plot. I know more about Part 4 than I probably should. So I'm a little sad that I know as much as I do because I feel like I can't get as excited about certain episodes. Like near the end of the series, I know my excitement's gonna be high just to see it, but I already know that I'm not gonna be as excited because I already know about certain aspects of Part 4. Like for example, I don't know how the Red Hot Chili Pepper fight ends, but I know who doesn't die, so that automatically kind of ruins it a little bit. Part 6 is almost, in terms of depths, it has like no fear in me. Because I know exactly who's in the end of Part 6. So I know if any character is introduced that I don't remember seeing, then I already know Part 6. Granted, we still gotta get through Part 5, which I heard is the most controversial of the parts. Due to a few things. But from what I've heard, it's primarily doing with one character and the ending of Part 5. Which I know kind of. Part 5 I don't really care as much about spoiling because I don't see anything in Part 5 I'm super interested in to begin with. Although it does have an interesting concept. I'll say that. But JoJo Part 4 has been really fun and interesting. I've enjoyed it. I look forward to every episode. And just because I know certain spoilers about Part 4 doesn't stop me from enjoying Part 4 as it is. At this point, though, I think I'm looking forward to a certain introduction of a certain character that if you've watched the opening, you've already seen and is what most people view as a self-insert into this particular part, and that should be. And also considering it was him, I was looking through Koichi's stuff. So there's a hint. Oh, and just give you an example of shit I don't know. I don't even know what part. I don't even know what the other evolution of Echoes is and what it does. Like, I have no idea. So yeah, but I know the entire plot of Yukako's returning chapters, and I already know how that's gonna go. I also know about the chapter that introduces the thing that is the huge surprise thing for the end of part 4. But yeah, I look forward to seeing more part 4. I find it to be really fucking fun. But for those who haven't seen it and want to leave their thoughts and comments, description in the comments down below. Talk. Anyways, that'll do it for me. So I'll catch you guys later. Life's a game, play to win, and as I always say, peace.